9:05. Parents took to social media at the weekend. This is the new way of venting your spleen if you're upset. They were frustrated at the gruesome scenes being shown on ITV. Jekyll and Hyde was the programme. It was shown at 6:30 on Saturday evening, hours before the 9 p.m. Watershed. According to parents on Twitter, within the first 5 minutes, the programme shows a man beaten to death in the street and a girl being run over. Martin Campbell is a former chief advisor to Ofcom and joins us on the show. Thanks for your time, Martin. Morning.
Good morning, Shane.
Did you see the programme, first of all? I missed it.
Sadly, I didn't. I've read lots of reports of it, and so I think I sort of know the type of programme that it was, and I can see why people have gone to Twitter.
And this would have been when you were a chief advisor to Ofcom. This was kind of the bread and butter they would deal with. They would have got complaints about. They probably have got complaints this morning about this, haven't they?
They will have got complaints about it, undoubtedly. Yeah, and actually, a lot of complaints come into Ofcom from people who haven't seen it either. They'll read the sort of Daily Mail and say, well, you see, it is funny, but they are making a point, really, as well, because the way that acceptability in regulatory terms has changed over the years has been quite remarkable.
Although it does diminish your ability to be outraged if you haven't actually seen it yourself, doesn't it, really? I mean...
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you work for any regulatory company now, whether it's to do with the media or not. Everyone seems to want the right to be outraged for other people.
What does your gut tell you about this particular programme? Because if it is graphically violent, 6:30 in the evening is a little bit early to show it on a Saturday night. You'll know that's a kids' TV market, I would have thought. Has something gone wrong in the planning of this, do you think?
In a way it has. I think two things have happened, really. One is the way that content can be grabbed on the internet by anybody at any time, any sort of content. That is a problem. When Ofcom replaced the ITC a few years ago, many people, including me, said, look, this is the time to actually work out where the internet falls in regulatory terms. Maybe you can't do anything about it at all, maybe you can, but now is the time to look at it. And it didn't really get looked at because politically it was a minefield, technically it's a bit of a nightmare, so nothing much was done. So there's a confusing regulation around this now. The TV-like internet sites, some of them are actually regulated by Ofcom, but as I say, it's a very fuzzy sort of rule. And the other thing that has happened is that I think Ofcom in the last few years, the last 2-3 years in particular, have let the genie out of the bottle by allowing soaps, which are family viewing, to push the envelope so far. You could say they get away with murder, both in regulatory terms and drama terms.
And in literal terms as well, yeah. I do wonder, the 9 p.m. Watershed, Dan, are you saying, are you hinting at, if it's not dead already, it's certainly on its way?
Well, if Ofcom don't do anything about the sort of programme here, and as you say, you're talking about 2.5 hours before the Watershed. Ofcom is quite proud about the Watershed. It did some research last year, because last year was 50 years of the Watershed, because it was 1964 that the Act was brought in where it was created. And yes, it was a different world then. They did some research, and they found out that most people thought that 9 o'clock in the evening was about right. But what the research didn't show was whether it's working or not. And clearly, I think most people think that it doesn't work, and it's strange, and I don't think it's just a question of people getting older, but now, you talk round a dinner table about what Mary Whitehouse used to say about TV if nothing was done. Most people now actually say, that woman was right.
Yeah. I do wonder, though, whether, the Watershed was ever something that worked. Remember, you're probably old enough to remember as well as I do, the triangle, the warning triangle that was trialled for a while. Was it Channel 4 trialled it, I think?
Yeah.
Well,
I think it was Channel 4.
That'd solve all our problems, wouldn't it? Little triangle in the corner, little red triangle denoting sex and violence coming up, and you could go, no kids.
I know. But what that did was effectively create an appointment to view.
Well, if that's what people want, then yeah, I never even thought of it that way. But again, again, I don't know whether it's just a simple solution. Isn't that a way of doing it rather than this imaginary line that we kind of constantly stepping over, do you think?
Well, yes, it is. But as I say, I mean, I think it's the soap operas that have actually smashed the floodgates down. And once that's happened, it's very difficult to row back on it. I mean, they've used arguments like, oh, we need to highlight these social issues for people. And there is some justification in that. But a lot of the stuff isn't justified of what they've done and hasn't been clamped down on. So, yeah. And now, of course, most people will say, well, look, I look after my children. But, of course, in official terms, politicians and regulators are very wary about standing up and saying, look, this is a problem for parents. Parents need to actually take control of this because society can't do it. This stuff is available. It's virtually impossible to stop. It's a parent's problem. But, politicians don't like saying that.
No, a bit too close to the truth, isn't it, Martin? Thanks for that. Martin Campbell, who's a former chief advisor to Ofcom. I'm not sure what the social message for Jekyll and Hyde would be. Don't drink potions, it'll turn you into a monster. An ITV spokesperson said ITV issued a warning before the transmission of Jekyll and Hyde, advising parents that it included some violence and scenes that younger children might find scary.